Idris Elba, we're recording this interview on your birthday at night. This must be a cause that you really care about.
Yes, it is. It really is. It is my birthday. But that aside, it's special because this week is, Literacy Week, and Project Literacy, who I'm working with to sort of be a beacon towards this project. What struck a chord with me is that pretty much I'm a self-taught person. I'm an actor, but I didn't go to drama school. I didn't go to DJ. I'm a musician, and I pretty much taught myself. And basically, there are a huge amount of people that are illiterate, and there's also a huge amount of people that want to teach themselves, that will teach themselves, that do teach themselves how to read and write, at the very least, just to communicate within their own family group. I was inspired. There's a lady called Wanda from New Jersey, and she couldn't read and write. She got two young kids, and what she would do when the kids would ask her to sort of read a bedtime story, she would look at the pictures in a book and just make up the words. And she had a character called Pong Pong, and she made up the words to it. And that story really touched me because she basically sort of adapted. She took the pictures, she adapted and communicated to her children, but she communicated to her children the love of reading books, even though she couldn't do it. And then, so for the last year, literally, she's been learning to read and write herself, and to the point where she's written a book.
And so the aim of the campaign is what?
It's to, bring awareness to the fact that there is, in this country, there's probably about 5 million people who are illiterate, okay? And in the world, there's 1 in 10 people who are illiterate. So it's to bring, that back to the forefront. The other thing is about that is that, we might know someone that's illiterate that doesn't know how to tell you. It's not something you would bring up at dinner. Hey, I can't read and write. So there's a real stigma attached to it. And so I think the Literacy Project is trying very hard to sort of raise awareness about that and find processes to make that easier for people to articulate and maybe help themselves.
And you're reading the story.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the ways teachers always say you can enthuse your children in reading is to read to them.
Read to them, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Do you read to your own kids?
Yeah, I read to my son, the same book every night. But, he loves it, and, to some degree I can swear he reads. I can swear he can recognise words, he notices when when you try and say a word that's, just skip past it. And then he did this, he'll notice that I've missed something out. You can't read them, but I think, the more parents can read to their children, the more their children are sort of enticed by reading themselves,
You say you're self-taught yourself. Mm. How does that chime in with this? Is there a way in which you kind of thinking you wish you were more formally taught all these things?
No. The way it chimes in is that I think, we're talking about adult illiteracy, okay? So, there are adults that are advanced in their lives, that are, getting on with their lives, that face the challenge of not being able to read. So you go to the doctors, get diagnosed with something, take some pills, and the instructions for how many times you have to read it is on the pills. You're not sure how to. You don't know who to ask. Perhaps you might ask your doctor, but your doctors presume that you can read your prescription. Just to sort of get past that stigma, I think people tend to want to teach themselves. The idea is, how do I fix this? That's where Project Literacy is trying to give them a beacon to go, actually, I can probably help myself learn to read, because, again, of the stigma attached. You might have a job. You might be working and not be able to read and write, and that's probably likely in cases of people that have labourers' jobs or jobs that are a bit more manual. You're not probably asked to read and never been tested. So I think the reason why it chimes in with me, because at some point when I decided that, hey, I want to be an actor, I didn't have drama school to go to, right? I would have liked to have gone to drama school, but couldn't afford it. So I suppose I taught myself to act on the job. But, when I was going up for acting jobs as a younger guy, most of the actors that were going for the same jobs were out of RADA, Central, and those were guys getting the jobs. I wasn't doing that. So, for example, if I went up for a classical theatre job, Shakespeare, I had no clue. I had to teach myself that. And so that ideology is about talking to adults, because most people think illiteracy is young people. It isn't. It's adults who live their life doing this, and now are too afraid to even say and mention, listen, I can't read.
A lot of it is to do with confidence, isn't it? And having the confidence to learn as an adult.
Absolutely.
I mean, you must have had a supreme confidence, as you say, to not have all the formal training, but still seek to do the things that you've done. Where did that come from?
I don't think it's the confidence. I think it's the fact that I'm not scared of looking silly. I'm not afraid of failing. I'm not afraid of trying something and not working out. That maybe is a type of confidence, but it's not so much that I'm a confident person, I'm going to teach myself to do stuff. It's just that you have to go through a learning process when learning anything, and you have to fail. And I'm okay with failing a few times to get back up. I think that just came from, both my parents are immigrants, come from Sierra Leone, where, it was a big deal to me growing up to hear my parents say, listen, I worked really hard to get here. So, inherently I work hard.
Did they tell you had to work harder than everybody else?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
As an immigrant kid?
As an immigrant kid, you've got to work 10 times harder than the white kid. That's what my dad used to say.
Did you?
I think I worked really hard. I think I was, that sort of snuck into my system. And then to this day I work hard. And not because I'm black and, someone else is white. It's just that actually working hard breeds the best results. I'm sort of glad that I've got that in my head now. And I think with Project Literacy, you're really asking someone to step backwards and read their ABCs. And this is a really tough thing to ask someone as an adult to do. And that's where I feel like, just being a beacon towards it, someone that sort of, I call myself self-taught, self-learned, I think is a good thing. I think someone that's sitting there watching this interview right now going, actually, I'll look up Project Literacy, because if it can guide me in the right direction to picking up a book myself or learning how to teach myself, that'd be a good thing.
You're not quite shocked that so many people are still illiterate in an advanced society like Britain, with so much money, so much resources going into education. I mean, what does that tell you about us?
It doesn't tell me anything about us, because quite clearly, we've had a history of, having an education system that works. All right, England has that history. Okay, but what it does tell me is that illiteracy is a problem that one can bury on their own. I think you can go. I think you can go through schooling not knowing how to read and write. I think you can be. I'm sure there's a kid in school that's either dyslexic or can't read properly and hasn't admitted it yet, and is probably going through a system of fails, but no one's actually pointed out that actually it's because his reading isn't very good. There are many young offenders in jail, and the high majority of them can't read. And then interestingly enough, the ones that do learn to read in jail, less likely to reoffend, and that's a fact. So that tells you that it's not. It might be a societal issue, but actually it's an individual and smaller circle issue. I think families probably swallow it up into their system. Oh, dad said he can't read the book because it's a bit too far. Or is it that dad actually can't really read it? And that's something that I think we have to just be open about. It takes guts actually to admit you can't do something, especially reading and writing,
Doing this, and the very fact that you are the guy who went from Hackney to becoming Hollywood A-lister, is a huge inspiration for many people. I mean, you are a role model. You're the definition of a role model now. Does that sit comfortably with you?
Well, listen, who the cat fits, let them wear it. I don't see myself as a role model because I'm still on the road, if you like. But then I think celebrity actors, whatever, are afforded so much privilege that I think if you are allowed to look back and help someone or say, listen, I think you guys who are looking at me should look at this, then absolutely that's my responsibility. But I don't consider myself as a role model, not really. I
mean, you used that celebrity as well to speak out about black actors last year, and the lack of opportunity that black actors are getting.
Well, not specifically black actors, but included in the group of diversity. That's what I sort of not specialised, but wanted to stress, is that diversity is not about putting more black actors or putting more women in. It's about the thought process of where does it start from? How do we go from thinking of a story to seeing it on TV? Where does diversity play a role in that? And if we can sort of think about our mindsets, the things that we've been taught since a kid about diversity or lack of, then you change it there, the stories become more diverse. the systems become more diverse, and then ultimately you see on TV a culture that represents what you live in. You know what I mean?
You think things are getting better since last year?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think what's important is that we are positive about it, as opposed to all going, oh well, you know, nothing's really changed. It has. You know, even my week when I took over the BBC, you know, there was a bunch of really new, diverse talent, really new, and we got commissioned. It was great.
When you did this campaign last year, you did an alphabet for literacy, and you chose radicalisation, and you said that literacy was a route to combating extremism. We've had a year of horrific extremist attacks. And I wonder whether you still think that, and you know, and why.
Well, I think combating any sort of extremism is about learning why, who, what, when. You know, learning that, understanding what it is their extreme thoughts, actions are about. You learn that, you can understand it even better. That's what intelligence agencies are about. They have to learn their enemy, and so. I think, you know, yes, to some degree, that was, you know, to some degree, it's a broad statement to say that, of course it is, but the truth of the matter is that you can't fight an invisible enemy. You can't. You have to learn them, you have to see them, you have to understand them. And I think, you know, if you're in a debate with someone that doesn't know what they're talking about, that is the hardest fight you're ever going to fight in your life. You know what I mean? So educate them. Get them educated. Then have a discussion.
When you saw London attacked and Manchester attacked, did you react as a Londoner as well?
As a human being, you know, as a human being, I'm born and raised in England, so London, Manchester, an attack is an attack, you know.
I interviewed a colleague of yours, Clark Peters, last week. He is very, he's really worried about the place where you filmed The Wire, Baltimore, and the way things are moving in America. Do you share any of those worries?
You know, interestingly enough, Baltimore, you know, since leaving The Wire in Baltimore, which was 16 years ago, if I'm really honest, I haven't been really attached or aware of all of what's going on there. Of course, the peaks and troughs of what's going on, but that consistent, you know, what happened post The Wire, I haven't really been focused in on, just because of my proximity to the country. But of course, yeah, you know, we made a television show ahead of its time that sort of highlighted real issues in America before they were real issues. And, you know, I definitely share the concern, you know, for an inner city like Baltimore and others across America.
Happy birthday. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, man. It's good to see you.